wouldn't surprise me if they got something.
Maybe, but it is a pretty scary team to do it against. The said Falcons are probably considered by many to be, what would you say, top 3, top 2 team? Yeah, FaZe probably right now hold that spot as number 1. Then it's kind of Fury and Falcons fighting it out in second. They're definitely in the mix for best team in the world regardless. So let's see how this one shakes down. They start on the attack, Loud on the defense, and Skyscraper is most definitely a defender-leaning map. First ban coming out is going to be the Monty. I would like to see them ban Dokkaebi because it is something that Falcons play to the absolute death. It's not going to be a thing here. Instead, Tim, understandably, it's a target ban against Shaiko and the lethality that he has with that Deimos.
Yeah, looking at the overall game and its position in the format as well, we can see up at the top those red bullet figures for you. Both teams in this one choosing to reload just the one bullet. I think just recognising a little bit of respect towards their opponents there. They know it's not going to be an easy game. So they've only gone with the one bullet reload. Of course, the limit today on day 1 is 2, so you've got the option of 1 or 2. They've both gone with 1.
There was a funny debate yesterday about how many teams actually get the format and then are saying, well, we'll just chuck a random number, roll a dice and pick a number of bullets to reload. But at this point, I think 1-on-1, as you say, showing a good bit of respect to one another. Drone bug, I believe, so going into a rehost here before we get ourselves properly underway with this game.
$150,000 on the, $170,000 for the winner. Certain that they're going to be paying plenty of attention to how many bullets are getting reloaded.
Absolutely. And this is the thing, even in this case where you're looking at that and going, well, surely Falcons would just reload 2 here. It's not the end of the world. You've still got 4 going into tomorrow. On day 3 is where you can really start having some fun and racking up big points. I think it's more just being cautious while you assess the field and exactly what's going on across the whole group. Because, again, that reminder, if you are lower down in the standings come the end of the day, then you get a pick of who your next opponent's going to be. And let's be honest, Tim, very few teams are going to pick Falcons as their next opponent.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be a bold team, wouldn't it? They're likely to be getting left towards the end of that draw for teams to not have any other option than to play Falcons, like you say. It's going to be interesting. All teams will make it to day 3. If you've done your quick maths, any team that reloads 2 today, reloads 2 tomorrow, and lost both games would lose 4. So would still have 2 bullets left coming into not Wednesday, into the 3rd day. I'm really struggling with days of the week.
It's
today.
weird because we started on a Saturday, That's not a normal thing. Normally we start on a Friday for a major.
I
SI would
keep
start
thinking
on
of
Monday.
days of the week, 3rd day, Wednesday. I've been having a real problem over the last 3 or 4 days with what day of the week it is.
That's just old age, mate.
I know.
How old are you now?
Don't worry about that.
39?
39.
Yeah. When are you 40 again?
This year.
What are we doing for it?
I don't know. What have you planned?
Oh, that's a good point, actually. Me and Chambers were talking about some plans. We've got no idea what those plans are yet, but there will be plans.
There we go.
We'll find something.
But yeah, so, up until day 3, everybody is going to be here. And then day 3 is the day where, in theory, we could start seeing teams. It starts to change then a little bit, as we've discussed. You can start to reload more bullets up to a maximum of 8, but it's also based on how many your opponent has. You can't reload more bullets than your opponent has.
Yeah.
So it's a nice little bit of balancing, is that? Because if you go and choose what you think is a really easy opponent because they've lost a bunch of games and they only have 2 bullets, you're limiting yourself in what you can potentially win because you can only reload 2 because your opponent only has 2. So it kind of removes some of the incentive from just going and picking the easy teams because it restricts what you can do.
Because if you're not careful, you come towards the last day 5, for example, which will be on Wednesday, and it's the top 4 teams that go through. If you aren't in that top 4 because you've been taking the easy games, then guess what? You're in hot bother. So I think it's very much going to be a case of being mindful of where you might sit down to, being able to pick out your opponents and really trying to harvest as many of those bullets as you can on the final day or 2. I think all our players are now back in lobby, by the way, so should be able to get going any second now.
Yeah, we'll get round 1 underway as soon as possible. Reminder for everybody who hasn't maybe seen the earlier games, we are working with our new operator banning system as well. So 2 bans at the beginning of the game for each team for the side that they are not on. So if you start on attack, you will be able to ban 2 defenders at the beginning of the match. And then after round 3, before round 4, you are able to ban a 3rd operator of the relevant side. So if you're on attack, you ban 2 defenders, then you ban a 3rd defender.
Remind me there, Tim, I'm going to check chat and see if any questions come flying
you have a
on
little
through.
Check. When we get to the halfway, we wipe the slate clean and we start the banning process again because obviously the side switch comes into play. Interestingly as well, at that halfway mark, not at at the additional round 4 ban. But at that halfway mark, the coach is allowed to talk to the team as well, which is obviously a little bit unusual to be able to talk to the team outside of tactical timeout. So that's something that's a little bit new as well.
There we go again. Have our bands come back through. Imagine we'll see the same ones, Monty and Mira. We'll see the Deimos coming out also from Loud. And I forget what Falcons' second defender ban was, Tim. Do you remember?
No. But we're about to find out.
We're about to find out.
Valkyrie. Valkyrie and Deimos. There we go.
Yes.
Ah, yes, I do, because we were talking about Dorkaby. I had Dorkaby in my head. We were talking about Dorkaby, but they went with Deimos. Another attacker that Sharko particularly likes to use, of course, the Deimos.
Yes. I mean, Deimos, if you've watched formerly BDS, now Falcons, watch this roster at any point over the last year and a half or so, you'll know how scary Sharko can be. And, of course, since you've seen Deimos come out, it has been his go-to bread and butter. I remember back when he used to play the living death out of Iana, Tim, that was his go-to operator, and things have changed around now, arguably for the better, because
that was the
Deimos
grenade changes that took him off Iana.
Yeah.
I remember it was I think we might have covered one of the, I think we cast the first game, or one of the first games that he went with Iana, and he was like, I can get kills with these nades. This is great. And then he just never went off Iana again and was an absolute menace.
Well, we're going to see him being a menace throughout the tournament. Regardless of what you're playing on, this round is going to be on the Lion. Now, whenever I talk about this roster, and it frustrates me to death that more teams don't ban it away, I speak all the time about Dokkaebi because they absolutely love playing it. 3 players have got this operator in their top 3 and they use it to great effect. Alongside something like a Lion or alongside the Deimos, it doesn't matter what it is, they'll really be able to push in and punish any would-be roamers with that operator on side. So, keep a close eye on when those calls come out because that is when this Falcon side spring into action and start their charge on forward.
Just going to be holding that angle through the hatch for the time being. Falcons, of course, starting on the attack, looking to, I think, work their way in towards office. We can see them there on the VIP wall, just looking to breach that. They do need to deal with the electricity. They have got the impact EMP wrong. They've not had the intel that they needed. Solotov dumps the impact EMP towards the bottom right of the wall, but it's an Electroclaw on the stairs, and it will foil that approach. We can see that Falcons have basically dipped away mostly from that side. We're going to have them taking the opportunity to open office wall, but I'm not sure how safe they're going to be entering on in here without VIP cleared out.
No. I mean, nothing else. It's very early in the round still, so it's a case of getting things opened up, but you've still got to then swing your way across the entire map. But forcing these away is the main thing, and it's too easy. STK getting a freebie, and with that, Tim, they'll get out of here, because sure enough, Sharko calls in the E1D straight afterwards, trying to catch someone out on the retreat back, and sure, he actually has got someone pincered out here, Tim, around Shrine. He's in a good spot, but they see his man. STK's being pincered from a couple of sides here. He's got 3 players around him, Tim, but he's still going. Has now got a nade at his feet, a C4 going off. He ain't getting out of here, Tim. He's got a second. Sharko now gone. Also got the Goya canister on the wall. Is still being held down, but for now, he holds on with 2 kills to his name. Finally finished off, but the damage has been done.
SDK's just given him a masterclass of how to play over in VIP. Absolutely beautiful double from him. And that is Falcons paying the price for not getting that wall open, not getting the drone in, and not being aware of where the Electroclaw was being placed. And it shows just how small the margins are that we are dealing with at times here. They've managed to level things up 3 versus 3, but only 45 seconds left to go. No impact on site whatsoever so far. No control of Geisha. This is going to be a tough attack from here on in.
They've still got 1 phone call left in the back pocket of Solotov as well. Of course, you've got to worry about the mute being on side. We'll jam away 1 or 2 of those calls if they're not careful. But when that call comes out, like it is now, this should be go time for the team. They've only got 25 seconds to work with, Tim. Another Goyo canister popped out to run down time further and just see Falcons start to sweat in the dying moments.
User's just trying to get aggressive and get himself on into Karaoke. Is able to do so behind that Blackbeard shield, and you can see Daffodil just not going to be engaging yet. Goes back for a look and will wish that he hadn't as Preday cuts him down. Baseto finds Solotov. Users onto live. Plant going down. Can Users continue to cover? Baseto is there with a huge play. He manages to stop the diffuser going down, and that's what I love about Siege. Where there's a will, there's a way, Des. Shotgun through the wall, creates the angle that he needs, and that is a great first round from Loud, just hanging on.
Yuzhu's had to cover, what, 2-3 angles there while Brede was getting the diffuser down, placing his trust in his life there and his teammate, but there's only so much you can get away with. And to give it to Basetto, Tim, he's a player that many over time have looked at and said, oh, is he quite at the standard that this team needs him to be at if they want to be a top contender? Well, clearly he showed some of that back at SI, and here, yes, it's only round 1. But he was the difference maker and has got them on the board. Loud at 1-0, but it was a pretty close affair. I'm imagining this half is going to continue playing out exactly the same.
Just going to be setting up basically the reverse of what they did there. They're going to, I would imagine, have a presence over in Tea and Karaoke on that side of things, just to, again, burn a little bit of time. We've got a few over there for the time being. Perez on the Azami maybe just going to be setting up. If nothing else, maybe just to give the illusion of a little bit of presence over there, just barricading absolutely everything at the minute. And whilst it might not slow Falcons down massively, what it does do is give you a big sound cue. If they're going to be coming across from that side straight away, if you're playing in drum, if you're playing in shrine, you're going to hear those barricades getting hit. So if nothing else, you might as well throw them up if you're not planning on playing over that side, because it's going to give you that noise cue. But look at this, Perez. He is right there on the black stairs door. He's waiting for a rappel. He's desperate for this, but he's not going to get any joy. Goes for the barricade, but here's the rappel. Drops back. Good little bit of cat and mouse going on there.
Admittedly a bit better for both sides than last time. I mean, it was SDK playing on the guide previously that tore through some of those Falcons players early in the round. More of a small exchange than anyone being taken down or seeing any craziness ensue. And once again, you're not going to see a Dokkaebi onside for Falcons, and this is where I wouldn't say that they're nothing without the operator. I know I keep on harping on about it because it is a really important point. It's not the end of the world when they haven't got it, but I do worry about their capability to be able to clear through a map effectively. Because they're going direct towards site here, they don't need the Dokkaebi onside. They'd rather have the extra utility. So you've got things like the double hard breach, you've got the Ying onside, you've got the Grim available at the same time. A lot here they can work with.
STK is going to be punished early in the round this time. We've got Brede working on the Maverick as well to try and counteract that Kaid a little bit, that tricking that we see in from the electric cores. Not too successful yet. Still don't have the office wall open. Still don't have the small bar wall open if they wanted it. So right now, again, Loud are doing a good job of burning down a bit of time. Leakafaka's got himself up drum stairs over towards Tea and Karaoke side, but as I said, he cannot get through for free. He has to open up the barricade,
Perez.
so they're aware of his position. And Perez, he misses his opportunity, and Solotov's there to punish.
Oh, Leakafak must have been watching The Matrix recently. Them bullets just didn't hit him, man. Perez only put a full mag into him, walks away alive, and they're punished for it. Very understandably so. Solotov into a 3K in the round. Leakafak springing up to collect one more. This one looking much more like what we expected back in round 1. Absolute Falcons domination.
Yeah, 5 versus 1. Dapo got it all to do. Just going to try and hold himself in behind that bomb chassis. They'll know exactly where he is. Users manages to pick him up with a headshot. 3-0 start for Users. Solotov on 3 kills in the round alone. And like you say, Falcons looking much better in that one. Stuflex looking very happy behind his team.
Sure is, and us looking very happy with our fantasy. I think it's worth touching on, Tim. Both got Yuzus for cost, and I've got Brede in there for, I want to say it was another stat. What did I have?
Survival, I think.
Yes, Survivor got him in there for, and he did die in round 1, which is not great. Obviously lived in that round, so I'll take it. But it's in line with what you expect coming out of this team. Palau got to buck up their ideas a bit here. I don't want to harp on him too much there, but for Perez, that's the kind of kill you've got to be netting when someone presents themselves full form in front of you. It should be the freest kill in the world, but could not find his man.
It wasn't just that it was presented to him, it was exactly what they'd set up to play for. I said it at the beginning of the round, he's barricaded everything on Tea and Karaoke. He's going to play in around Shrine or Drum, and then guess what? He knows if somebody's coming from Tea and Karaoke.
Yep.
And exactly what he'd planned happens, and look, Leakafak's there on Ash. And he just couldn't land his shots. It was a little bit windy up there in the drum area for that one. And he's going to be ruining that. Solotov was great on the support, to be fair. Leakafak maybe does lose that fight if it continues, but Solotov being able to impact on it from Terrace was really big for him.
Let's see if that carries on and we see more of the same. So now very heavily leaning in towards the denial coming into this round. Caught a barbecue kitchen defense. I'm looking at the mute and the Mozzie. all about the intel denial, locking away what Falcons can achieve, and spoke about it in the last round. Now that we're back onto a site that requires more of a map clear, Dokubi's back in the field. So again, you've seen that pattern of play emerging from them time and time again. It's the way they like to approach the game. And Shaiko onto, I think this was his most played operator, because they must have often banned away. He plays something else. I want to say Nomad was played more like twice as often as his next played operator at the last event at SI. Just one of his go-to bread and butters. Clearly loves the gun, but also fantastic as an operator. The team take map control with the Dokubi and then lock things down with that Nomad. It's so hard to get a good flank off against his team as a result.
STK once again just over in this position, opposite side of the map, just looking to try and burn time in and around office, in and around VIP. He needs to be very careful here, Loud, as they start to be challenged in and around terrace. Falcons surrounding that, but how about that? Live doubts out will be punished by Leakafac on the exchange, on the trade. 4 versus 4. A mute is lost, a Dokubi is lost. The loss is definitely bigger for Falcons.
Yeah, losing that Dokubi, you don't get the second phone call on side. That's the real stinger. You might have taken a C4 off the board, but it's not really what Loud are pushing into here. They'll hope for those C4s to catch someone out when they lose control of Karaoke T at some point in this round. I think for Falcons, they'll be feeling the pain more than anything else. At least stepping their way back here, Loud, happy with what they've collected. A couple of players dropping down, still one holding on the upstairs. And those Goyo canisters you just saw burning out, running that clock down further. We're coming towards the last 60. And of course, Shaiko gets a kill like that. That is just disgusting.
Game sense is absolutely unreal from Shaiko. It's
Come
one of the
on
things
now.
that's been fantastic for him over the years. He's going to be looking to move down drum stairs here. See if he can find anybody else.
Do you remember the similar kill that he got on border where he just like put 2 bullets into the main doorway, like double door? Shot once, shot twice, and got a kill in the second. Even he paused and was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
It always seems to be him.
Just going to be getting a little bit of a vertical angle from the Selma there. Rather than opening the hatch specifically, just seeing if they can get the space, the line of sight that they need, but they're just struggling a little bit here, Falcons, to find that next kill that you feel would be the real momentum boost that would start driving them forward. Basetto just with some fancy footwork avoiding the damage, but he goes back for more and he'll be taken down. Users picks up Dafo in a trade after he manages to find Shaiko. Again, it's 3v1. 9 seconds left to go here. Breedy, however, he's going to be putting that diffuser down, Des.
That's what he does, Tim. Users being taken offline, but like that, Leakafac is there for the trade. And of course, there's some loud noises to come out of the team as a result. Another good round coming out from Falcons. And in round 1, of course, it all got whittled down. STK with a big 2K at the start. Basetto with a brilliant play to round things out. But since then, it has felt all Falcons.
Just going to have the ban phase coming in, so we will have an additional ban each. As we can see, Falcons will take out another defender, Loud will take out another attacker. We will see which ways they go, and it's going to be Kaid and Dokubi, respectively, that are taken out. It's no surprise to see the Kaid taken out after the trouble that Falcons have had with it so far. They've been tricked. They've struggled to get the impact EMPs to find the electrical back in round 1, and you would argue that, did it cost them the round? It was certainly a big part of it, as STK was able to then play in VIP and got 2 kills from there. Wouldn't have been possible had they got that correct. So, no real surprises to see the Kaid go. It's just going to give them maybe a little bit more flexibility on the attack to get those walls open without having to bring along the Maverick.
All right, let's see what we can do now that extra ban has come on through. I did hope we were going to see a Dokubi ban, and indeed, that is what has dropped in. This is where now I think these sites that require clearing more of the map might start playing into against Falcons here, because for Loud, they haven't got to worry about being hunted down once those phone calls start coming on through, and hopefully can get a little bit more done. It will force Falcons to rethink their ideas here and come up with something a little bit different. So really like the bans that have come out from Loud, very targeted and very, very sensible.
5 seconds to insertion.
Heading into the action phase of round 4 then, still a little bit of late setup going on as we just get that rotation opened up into sight. So last time around when Falcons were attacking on to this side of the map, onto T and Karaoke, as I said, it was STK that caused them some real problems. He played up in VIP, he did the damage from inside of Dragon really. This time we see him just playing underneath in-house for the time being to start things out. Not sure how aware Falcons are of that. They're going to spray out the window near him, but Not an unusual thing to do, really, just to clear out that line of sight, make sure nobody is there. So that forces STK back upstairs. Now, how do Falcons go about dealing with VIP? They've got to learn that lesson. They know that that was the problem last time. And look at that aggression coming out alive, right up onto the breach to shoot away the second detonation of that Selma charge. I don't think it really helps him too much because Falcons don't necessarily want to move in through there. They just want the line of sight to make it difficult to play inside of there.
The thing is now, it means that the only real angle that Falcons can push in on that side of the map is going to be into the single wall, which require making use of an exothermic. Or, of course, the Salma's getting over there, which you now can't use because Leak Effect's gone. It's just going to make life difficult. Otherwise, it's the display window, and it's like, can you really do enough with that? I don't think you can. So this actually is working really well for Loud here, where Falcons have just assumed, yeah, the wall will get opened up and they'll move away and we'll catch them on the pinch in construction. But with no one forcing them to move, Loud don't actually need to pull back here.
Yeah, exactly that. It's once again, Falcons struggled with the clearance of the office side of the map. Last time they attacked here, and they're struggling with it again. It was STK the first time. It's live this time around. They just can't seem to force them out of position and get in and take that ground away from them. Musis is going to take a bunch of damage. STK is going to do even more onto Solitov as he cuts him down. That's Grim gone as well. So that's your B's lost. You're not going to be able to force those players out. It's utility that could have directly helped them to get into that position. We've got Shaiko just doing Shaiko things, walking on into sight, but he can't find anybody yet. The challenge comes in and he's cut down. STK, Perez, this is all going in Loud's favour as they find a flawless round.
Certainly not what I expected, Tim, but I'll come back to what I said about the Dockerby ban. They can't force these players out from that east side. Like, yeah, cool, the breach is one thing, but they can't easily push in and force these players away. They're stuck trying to make use of a Grim, and those bees, as we saw, just missed, didn't add anything to that attack. And they were very much stung at that point, pushing in blind. I've long said that I really wish teams would ban the Dockerby away more because it hamstrings Falcons, especially when you see they make a call, they push forward as a team, everyone makes things happen at once, and it's very overwhelming. Without that, you're seeing them struggle. So here they're going to have to go back to playing the Lion, for example, to try and make this work, but I think Loud might have just found a good response here to try and keep Falcons out.
So if you remember, I said this roster is a roster that is willing to take teams to their good maps and just have a plan. And they've come in here with a plan. Take Dockerby, take Deimos away from Falcons and see what they can do on the attack. And the answer at the minute is they can struggle a little bit. And that's what we're starting to see. They just can't get hold of that office side of things. They just could not get the push on in there. We'll see whether they can manage it in reverse here. It's going to be a mirror attack. They're likely, as we saw last time, Leak Effect moving in through T and Karaoke. They're going to look to try and get that office wall open again, put a little bit of direct pressure onto site itself, but they've got to come up with something different here, the Falcons, at the minute. They can't rely on just winning gunfights. I'm
enjoying the aggression coming out from Loud. Like, Live especially has had a couple of rounds now where he's really gone bananas. Like, the previous one there, stepping up to try and tag onto the Salma to get rid of it. The one before that, when it wasn't actually the round before, it was a couple of rounds prior, where he ran out onto the Dokkaebi making the phone call. Like, he's just willing to take those risky plays and make something happen. And sure, he's died a few times for it, but it's the willingness to keep Falcons on their toes and being constantly worried about these threats that is giving his team at least a bit of an edge in a couple of these rounds.
Just going to see that aggression once again, this time out of Pasetto. Just keeps taking the quick peeks out onto the balcony, wants to know whether Falcons are there or not. This time they're taking it a little bit more slowly. It looks like they're going to be working for that cross-map clearance rather than looking directly towards sight. We can see them, you know, trying to get themselves into Geisha, trying to get themselves a little bit of a beachhead established where they can move on in, and now finally they will start thinking towards that soft wall that opens up into office, towards that sort of position. But again, having to jump the Rotero drone to avoid it being shot out, having to just get it on the wall, it's not the best opening that they've made.
It isn't, and this is where they might start getting a bit stuck here, Tim. It's where I start feeling nervous for them. They've got to employ something to make their charge forward. Now start thinking here about, you know, would a blitz be a better plan for them? They're running a lot of Blackbeard, for example. The Monty's banned away from them, so they can't play that to achieve the same thing. I think a bit more pace and aggression might be what they're missing here, but We'll see if they can get it done. Still only halfway through the round. You can see the tag coming on through from the Grim Bees of Solotov. Still got another one of those E1Ds to pull out as well in Shaiko's back pocket. And they've also found the entry. SDK taken offline, and a 5 versus 4 begins.
Perez is pinged out as well. They know his position. It's going to be Shaiko managing to get Dafo Solotov onto Perez, using that information from the Grim Bees to make sure they get in and get the kill. And this is BDA. Sorry, Falcons just looking much better here. It was inevitable at some point. Shaiko and BDA managed to get themselves two. And that's going to close out the round. At the minute, it feels like each of these rounds just goes heavily in favour of one or the other team. They just seem to get in there, get a few kills, and just run away with it. And this time, it was Falcons.
It does quite literally, Tim. We've had, what, 2 flawless rounds. That round just then was really dominant too. In fact, the only 2 rounds that haven't been that way was round 1 and 3, where 1 survived and then 2 survived. It's been a bit mental between the two. Like you say, really trading blows with one another. Though, at least as it stands, with it being the attacking side, I'll give it to Falcons and say having 3 attacks on Skyscraper. I'm very, very pleased with that. Last side of the half then is going to be Barbecue Kitchen. This does mean there's a lot of map to clear here, and I think in the last round, despite not having that Dockerby on side, where we saw Loud struggle, was they're wanting to play that aggressive style that I mentioned Live has employed a few times throughout the half. Trying to do much of the same again. Falcons were just willing to be patient and let them make the play onto the other side once Loud tried to get a bit too aggressive about things and with the one swinging a bit wildly. So really good response. Falcons in a spot to close this out 4-2. But if Loud can get it back to 3-3, I think even with that, Falcons will still feel happy about the outcome of the half.
5 seconds to insertion.
Perez just going to be doing the work to get that reinforcement.
They love this east extension, by the way.
Yeah,
like, even on downstairs on the west.
Just doing the work to create that sort of safe space for them to play over inside of Office and Exhibition, and just try and create as many hurdles, as many obstacles as possible for Falcons to work their way through. They've got a presence out in Geisha, of course. They're going to want to keep hold of the vertical, and so Falcons here. The difficulty is, I almost prefer this site in some ways to Tea and Karaoke, because it's like Tea and Karaoke, but with an additional step. You know, once you've got that top floor, you've also then got to get down into site. You've pretty much got to get control of about 75% of the map here of Falcons on attack. So it's just so much work for them to do.
Dug in for the most part. This time around, not looking to get too aggressive. You'd maybe expect to see that with a Solus on side. You know, Perez wants to get out there, take away the intel away from the other side. We've seen Mute and Mozzie employed in this site previously to try and achieve the same outcome. A little bit different, a little bit more mobile, a bit more aggressive. Of course, not in a great spot right now, Solus. I believe some future changes to come to help bring her back into the meta a little bit more confidently. But you will see teams every now and then employ her in a spot where they feel she can have the most effect. And clearly that's what Perez feels that he can get away with here. Demonstration of the new repelling mechanic, by the way, around the corner. And we'll get off the rappel, then straight back on it again. Wonderful.
Love to see it. User's just going to be getting onto that window now, try and cut down any movement, any rotations. Try to punish them. Dafo does manage to pick up Solotov, though, and it's not the start that Falcons would have wanted in the round. Like you say, 3 attacking rounds is not the end of the world on Skyscraper, but wouldn't a 4th be wonderful for them? Just missing the tail end of Leaker there. He gets the ping. Can't find his man as he's pinched between 2. Basetto finishes him off with the shotgun. 5 versus 3, and Loud are in the driving seat.
Dear.
And what did I say, Des? These rounds, they just go all in favour of one team or the other. 5 versus 2. And Falcons are on a major back foot.
Felt like a little bit of a, I don't know, unsynergized round really coming out from Falcons when Bride's got himself in no man's land and got picked off in a 2 versus 1. When Shaiko's gone hoping for the best down backstairs, it has crumbled. And to be fair to Loud, Tim, I said it previously, they didn't go aggressive and try swinging everything they possibly could. They were waiting to see what the other side were doing. So the patience game has rewarded them, but I feel like Falcons will be happy that they've walked away with 3 attacks here on Skyscraper. Now they switch onto the defense, and it's on to Loud to show us what they can do.
So as we are at that halfway point where the sides switch, we will go through the banning phase again. So each team will ban out 2 operators simultaneously. Loud banning the defenders, Falcons banning the attackers. The coach, of course, is allowed to speak to them at this point as well, just through that short banning phase. So again, maybe a little bit of wisdom that they can impart, just remind them of what the strategy is going to be for the second half, what they're expecting out of the opposition on the other side of the coin. We're going to move into round 7. We've got Blitz and Ace are going to be taken away by Falcons, and we're going to have the Electro Bros, Cade and Bandit.
I like you started saying that now.
Yeah.
Never heard you say it before.
It's catchy.
Yeah, the Electro Bros.
So we're going to have Cade and Bandit taken away by Loud, so that should facilitate them getting in the map a lot easier.
I love how they just knew Loud what they were playing into here by not taking the mirror away, that we were going to see Falcons step across and play it. And sure enough, that's what we've got. No Castle on side to make it a triple Architect lineup, but you do have the Keeper barriers coming out of the Azami alongside the mirror to be a bit of a nuisance. And an operator we don't see tons these days, Tim, but when you do, you're always expecting a bit of magic and fireworks. Breeday going across onto the Echo.
Okay, we'll keep a close eye on those yokai drones and the usage of them. We know the value of the operator. It can be absolutely decisive in any round that Echo is brought along. It's going to be really important that Breeday makes sure that he stays alive and that he's in position to be able to do something about it. Doesn't want to be getting wrapped up in gunfights and holding angles where he can't use those drones to best effect. We see them used in two different ways, the yokai drones. Sometimes we will see them used purely for intel and plant denial, just kept safe and brought out in the last 20-30 seconds to prevent those plants going down. Sometimes we will see them used much the same as an attacker drone, going ahead of roamers, clearing areas for them, feeding intel into them, getting them primed and ready for fights. I think of Deepek when I think of them being used like that.
Deepek kind of pioneered that playstyle over on Fnatic, of course. The player surviving from the roster that won the Berlin Major back in 2022. And it was actually there where he showed a really effective use of the yokais, sending them out through drone holes to be outside the map and jumping up to scan what was going on around things like Clubhouse or Cafe, you name it. And really just showing that, you can use it aggressively sometimes to even drone in your roamers. It was quite innovative at the time, and now a number of teams have started trying to employ and use it as C4 out from Solitov, catches out Daffodil. Off he goes. That one won't be growing up anymore.
Let's not forget that Loud are attacking over onto Teat and Karaoke. It's not actually an office site that they are looking at, and they're losing bodies, they're losing time, and looks like they're losing ideas at the minute. They don't really have too much of a response. SDK does manage to pick up Leakerfight. Perez onto Solitov. The Caster Curse strikes true as Falcons start to crumble a little bit there. Loud applying pressure elsewhere. They've got themselves in now. Falcons have had to dip back towards site. It's going to be a long 1 minute 20 to try and hold on. The next kill is essential for Falcons.
So it takes sometimes. There's a couple of kills that had to come in, and the momentum of the round completely flips. Because again, we've got that Dockerby on side, we've got a cool in-back pocket, we've got a Monty to bear down on any of these players that would dare not be playing near a teammate. Loud have really got all the tools to make this round work for them, but we're into that last 60 seconds or so, still got to work their way through the middle of the map, pushing in through Terrace, in through Shrine, and of course these yokais still loom large.
Drone heads into drone. I don't know if it quite caught the feet of Shaiko on the Azami or not. I would imagine they've got a good idea that's the position that he's in, given that they're going to be playing into Kiba barricades there. They've just seen him move back across as Basetto looks to get on in towards site. Damage taken here. Need to be careful. The yokai drones could well come into their own. Users picks up a beautiful headshot. Shaiko set with a 1v2. Cannot do it, as Loud managed to get another round over the line, and Falcons could be having a wobbly start here at Reload. It's not too unusual for this roster. We do see them sometimes, pick up those tough results at the beginning of tournaments and kind of grow into them. But right now, Loud are looking good.
Yeah. I don't want to get too excited by it because it's the first round of the attack. And I said earlier on, for Falcons, I think you'll be pleased coming away with 3 attacks from your first half. Where I start to get nervous now is if Loud win this next round and start to put a bit of a gap between them and between Falcons. That's when you start to feel a bit nervy for them. What I will give to Loud, though, is their attack at the end of that last round was brilliant. They knew they had the man advantage, didn't rush things, gave themselves about 30 seconds still to work with, and all executed as a team. So even when they lost a player or two, when there were yokais disrupting the Monty, for example, there was still someone ready to capitalize and get a kill elsewhere. Really good stuff, and showing that composure that we've been wanting to see from them. I think Daffodil so far, yeah, sure, his numbers aren't spectacular, but he's fitted into this team really well, not forgetting that he's come from Keyed Stars. A lot of work to do to get into the way that this team works and the habits of players and synergize with them better. It was the thing we've said that we want to see from a lot of teams at this event, is how they're going to gel together when they've only had a few months to work things out. So far, at least from what I'm seeing, they're not looking too bad here.
I only know how to
Not at all. We're going to see Falcons now defending the opposite side of the map. Going to be Office and Exhibition that they try to hold on to. Going to need to do a better job than they did in the last round. Loud, although it looked like a good start from Falcons, they made it very difficult for Loud to get in. You saw Bassetto on the Monty kind of shifting around, trying the minibar door, not working there. The wall was reinforced, moving back across to the Office breach. Just couldn't really seem to settle, but then all of a sudden, I think it was Perez who managed to get himself one along with STK, and it just opened things wide up for Loud, created all the space they needed. It was still a little bit of a close finish maybe, but
what is going on that wall?
Falcons know that there is more work for them to do in this one.
I didn't think at the middle bit because of the angle off towards the side there is it's easy to shoot those X-Kairos off the wall. So they're in a bit of a difficult spot here, Loud, where I don't think they'll have full access into VIP without first moving that player away. But they're at least partially opened up. They should be able to force him back in a way so they can finally get things done. Not forgetting here, Tim, that this is just to get in towards VIP. There's still various other things I've got to worry about, like the main breach, making sure there's no one holding out towards Terrace. Still lots of movement to do. In fact, you can see the Legion of Users out towards Shrine or around Toaster, whatever you want to call that down towards the other side of the map. So for now, Falcons largely unbothered, just waiting to see where Loud are going to start their push from.
And as far as Loud are concerned, they are completely stacked up around site. They're on the balcony, they're at the breach, they are just completely in that position, and they need to find kills from there, which they will start to do. Live manages to find Breeder. Shaiko can't quite find the feet. STK is down and out as Solotov finds the finish, but Live and Perez one apiece. Bassetto's in there with the shield on his back, putting the diffuser down, but he doesn't need to, as the kills rain in, and Loud take another round. And right now, 3 attacking rounds for Falcons. Des, it doesn't look good enough.
Not when 2 of 2 possible round wins have gone to Loud so far. Falcons are crumbling a little bit here, Tim, and understandably...
And this is where they struggle.
There's a Falcons timeout coming in here because they need to get this fixed, and fixed quick.
They looked, I commented on it after the first couple of rounds. Stuflex was happy, he was smiling, the whole team looked, and we've talked about how they are a team of energy and emotion, and when the going's good, they are great. But when the going's tough, sometimes they struggle. I think in longer series, that is less of a problem. They have more time to kind of reset and to come back at it, and it's like, yeah, maybe we just lose this map and we go on to the next one. They don't have that good grace here, Des. It's best of one. You either shake yourself out of it now, or you're going to lose in 2 rounds' time.
Hopefully this is where they shake themselves down, brush themselves off, and go again, Tim. Got to make it work here. They're even going back to karaoke and tea rather than rotating onto that third site of barbecue kitchen. Going to have a go at these 2 primary sites. Across those last 2 rounds, though, I'll give it Loud have looked like the far superior team. And I imagine already Falcons are thinking, God, we've got to ban away one of these operators because we are getting suppressed across the board here. There's not an awful lot they can do. I don't want to rag on him for this either, but Shaiko had a golden chance to get 2 kills from that terrace spot where he saw 2 players out on Balk. Sprayed away at the legs, but just couldn't quite get enough damage down to finish either off. That could have been the defining moment in the round if he got away with 2 kills there, but unfortunately did not.
Heading on into round 9 then, it will be the final round that we play before those next bans come in. So at the end of this one, Loud and Falcons will get another ban each. Loud will take another defender and Falcons another attacker. Looking at the minute, I would expect to potentially see another one of those shields taken away by Falcons. I think Bassetto particularly is using the Monty and the Blackbeard fantastically well. He's attracting a lot of pressure. He's causing a big nuisance that then players like Live, Perez, STK are able to take full advantage of the space they're being afforded because of the focus on Bassetto. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Falcons take a shield away, but how do you solve the problem? By taking the ace, he's just going to play the other. You take Blackbeard, he'll just play the Monty.
That's the problem. I mean, they've already at this point banned away. They could have gone for a double shield ban. We spoke about these co-op bans where you ban 2, in this case, Electro Bros away. You ban away 2 hard breachers, 2 shield operators. And at least then you've got flex on that third ban in case you need to ban away another one like that, or if you can afford to be a bit more flexy. Whereas by banning away one or the other here, like, you still leave yourself so wide open, I think, that it might come back to bite them if they're not too careful. One thing's for sure, though, Loud are the ones in the driving seat here.
Yeah, I look at the ace ban and I think, how much has that really gained Falcons? And Hibana's been brought along. The attackers haven't had any real problem breaching, and I don't think it's gained them too much. But hindsight is a wonderful thing. We're going to have Leakerfact just watching these black stairs for the time being from above. I'm sure that Loud will be more than aware of the potential danger of that position. Breeder is on there as well, so Leakerfact just trying to support his teammate there, make sure that they can hold down this position. We know that smoke on these stairs can be a real power spot. It's difficult to move in and attack him because you're always at short range, whether it's from the sort of balcony door or whether it's from the bottom of the stairs. You're always in range of that shotgun, so it's a tough challenge to overcome for the attackers.
Just want to be careful here that Breeder doesn't chew through these smokes too soon. Bearing in mind there's still 70 seconds of the round to play here. Ideally, you want to save that more force for the execute, but he's using it in response to utility coming out, whether it's the Grim Bees, whether it's drones coming on through. No doubt flashes will start to follow soon too. Here comes the first phone call coming out from the Dockerbee as they start their push on forward. This is when they need to try and capitalise and pick up a player two on the side of Falcons. Sure enough, they get one, but there's trades coming back and forth down to a 3 versus 3.
I thought Breeder had made a real good move there, getting up to the door. I wasn't sure Loud were aware of it, but they really were. Perez stepped in and managed to get that kill. 3 versus 3. They're starting to work in behind the light screens of Sensia just to try and get a little bit of space up at the top of Black Stairs. They're aware of the player just inside of Karaoke. They've got to shut down Leakerfact. If they do that, Loud might just have all the space they need to think about getting a plant down.
They've got so much utility here between the Kappa Tower and the Sens coming in and the Grim. It's horrific. Finally, Leakerfact taken out as well. They knew that he was there off the back of this, and now making the Sens use to get the plant down as well at 3 versus 2. And we could see Loud here, Tim, going up to match point.
Perfectly played. As I said, just get in there, get the kill onto Leakerfact, create the space that you need to put the diffuser down. Leakerfact was the linchpin in that situation. And how did Loud deal with it? In typical Loud style. We've seen this roster, Des, in Brazil do this so many times. We'll just walk in. We'll just walk in and kill you. If you want to hold that position, that's fine. We will just outgun you. We will just outmuscle you. And that's what's happening to Falcons right now.
So well coordinated as well. It's a beautiful thing to see. And Falcons are getting no joy here on the defensive skyscraper, a map that you figured they would. However, let's take a look at what our bans are going to be coming in. It's the Ying and the Azami, Tim. Not quite sure that's going to be enough here to save Falcons, being completely honest with you. And in case they felt like there was any kind of solace to hold on to in the back of the Azami, that's been taken away from them too. Another go-to Shiko operator off the board.
Yeah, I think, like you said, they've got to ban something. They've got to have a plan. They've got to have something behind them. I don't think it's going to be enough. Like I said, is there really much value in taking away one of the shields from Bassetto? I don't think there is, because you take the Monty, he'll just take the Blackbeard. So I get that, but do I think that banning phase is going to be enough to save Falcons? I don't honestly think it is, because right now, no matter what they do, Loud are finding answers.
Got a rehost coming on through here, as you can see, so we'll get ourselves back into things shortly. I can tell you that we went down to barbecue and kitchen for that site on the defense, so in that case, Falcons were saying, let's step away from what we've tried, because we've lost Karaoke twice, we've lost Exhibition, we've got to try something different. As I've said, I feel like it's too little too late now. You've got a 3-round deficit to play through. You've got to go back to those top 2 floor sites after this, unless you're willing to go out there and really go on a limb and play out towards bedroom side. But I just don't think you're going to see that, Tim. And I think Loud will find a way through.
That's the problem at the minute. I don't think the question at the minute for Falcons is where, it's how. That's the far more important question, because where is not going to be the answer. No matter where you go, Loud are going to find answers. They are going to find a method to break down whatever you've built up. So it's about how you do it. It's about going in and winning those gunfights. Falcons have got a couple of players that have been a little bit quieter than we might expect so far. They need to be getting involved. This is the time. It's now or never.
That's worried that it's a bit too late for that, Tim, to be honest with you. Again, there's a lot of work to do. This timeout might play in there. Technical timeout might play in their heads a little bit too. Know that they've got a bit of a mountain to climb. It's not the end of the world. It is day one, but it's more about the message that it sends, Tim, that, again, Falcons last year were consistently that team finishing second place at every event. They won the Esports World Cup. They show what they can do. But when it matters, or in this case when it doesn't, it just shows that there's still these weaknesses that resurface from time to time. And I'm going to keep an eye on them, because I'm really interested to see how much the change to the operator ban system comes to punish them, because they have relied on this small group of operators that now you can ban away 3 of them. It's going to be punishing them. We saw it from the Dockerbee before. You're seeing it a little bit in this half as well with the hard denial that they've had taken away from them. It feels like Loud might have at least got them figured out here on day one.
We're going to be heading back on into things just as soon as we can. Just a little technical pause going on at the minute. So, as you can see, a reminder for everybody, the coaches will not be interacting with the teams. Will not be talking to the players at the minute. They are not allowed to during the technical pause. The only times they're allowed to talk to the players is during the ban phase before the game starts, during the ban phase at half-time, and during any tactical timeout, whether it's called by them or called by the opposition team. Whenever a tactical timeout is called, both coaches are allowed to speak to their team. So it's always something that they've got to consider when they're going to call that timeout. Is it a good point to be letting the opposition coach talk to their players as well? Always a little bit of a balancing act. But Falcons right now, it's not about balancing, Des. It's about overrunning. They've got to tip that seesaw in their favour. And they've got to do it every single round at this point. The best they can hope for is overtime. 3 rounds they've got to survive without mistake now. Are they capable?
Yeah.
Of course. Are they going to do it based on how they're playing today? No. Something's going to have to change.
But don't forget, we also thought the same about Cloud9 and PSG Talon early on. We thought, Talon, like, they're down 6-3. There's no way they catch back up. And they did win 2 rounds in a row. Like, it's possible. But ultimately, the outcome was still what we expected. And I do think Loud can take this one away. And also to get back into the game in just a second. All players are back in the lobby, so should be able to get moving any second now.
The other thing I would say about this Loud roster, whether that's with Daffo or Flashtree, whatever we've seen from them, they're always good at winning when they're on top of people as well. Once they get ahead in terms of the scoring, I think they're very good at staying there. They're ruthless. We see those teams that will get 6-2, 6-3 and always let teams come back at them, always let it go to overtime. Whereas I feel with these players, they seem to grow in confidence more and more. It's like, yeah, we know we're on top of this. We know that we're beating you up at the minute. And they will just completely ruthlessly finish this one off.
For sure.
Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
I'm quite sure what our hold-up is here as well, as we are basically ready to get back into things. I think we've got to do... As I say, switcheroo was the most important part. We had Loud on defense for a second. I was like, no, they're on attack at this point and should be rolling their way through. I think almost there. A couple of last moments here for Leakerfat to review the strat book. A written strat book is a new one. Normally it's diagrams that teams have in a massive stack of paper, but here it's more written.
Yeah, it's always fascinating the way that different teams do different things. We, of course, saw them wanted at SI with their big landscape pages that they had printed out for each different map, and everybody does it in different ways. And then we've got some sort of blue squiggled writing for Loud.
I'm told we are basically ready to go again. It was sorting out the stats, which have now been corrected, and we are good to go. Here we go then. We'll see if Falcons can fight their way back in. They are 3 rounds down. Loud sit at match point. This one could be a very, very short ending to this game, Tim. Oh, a little sound effect with that.
It's very nice. So it's a little reload sound effect.
It is. Well noted.
Just a reminder of what hangs in the balance for this one then. Both teams have reloaded 1 bullet each of their 6. So whilst Falcons may come away with a loss here, it won't be as bad as it could have been. They could have gone for 2. They've chosen to go for 1. Loud will gain 1 if they win. Head up to 7. Falcons would move down to 5, so not the end of the world, and certainly not a tournament-winning performance immediately from Loud either.
And defuse as many bombs as they can.
Wouldn't there be any reason why, for example, Falcons will come into this playing 1? Because you go down to 5, which means that you're, if you lose, of course, you are more likely to still have the pick of your opponents tomorrow. Like, you'll be...
You should
down
be,
at 4.
in theory, you'll be in the bottom half, because half of the teams are going to win, top half of the table. Half of the teams are going to lose, bottom half of the table. And it's the bottom half of the table that will choose the opponents for tomorrow.
If you lose your first 2 games and you go down to 4 points, you're still very likely to get your selection without falling too low down to being at risk of elimination the following day. The exciting part for me, at least, is that means the next day they're likely to be able to pick their opponent. You pick someone at the very top of the table and play your absolute heart out and try and batter a top team that's got, I don't know, 8 bullets.
And you just go in and reload 8, and you could be jumping
and
right
you get
up to
straight
the top.
up to 12 at the very top of the board, and then you're qualified. You're looking good at that point.
Yeah.
So it could be. I'm not saying the throwing games, of course, but more that they know if
they
lose
not at
games.
all. It's just. It's gaming the setup, isn't it? It's looking at what's the structure, what's the how can we reduce our risks whilst
if they lose games, then they're in a spot to be able to make that kind of play. If they win, then cool, it's still bonus. You're walking around with more bullets than you started with, so it's not the end of the world. But of course, we'll see what the strategy looks like over the next couple of days as the team starts getting in towards that point. Pasetto struggling with this wall. It's going to be jammed away, so the need to get rid of that mute jammer from Solotov that will be underneath, surely cleared out by someone at some point. And that VIP wall can get opened up and they can start their push in.
And they've got the impact EMPs that will come in.
That works too.
Yep, that's going to do the job.
Trigger it
Quickly.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. That's going to get the job done. I was very concerned for a second then that wasn't going to happen.
Was like, hang on, man, I'm on my drone. Leave me alone. Like, no, do it now.
Bassetto is going to be using that second exothermic charge. That's going to be, I think, Geisha wall getting opened up. I'm not sure, or is it the minibar wall on the other side? We will see as we progress. STK manages to pick up Leaker Pack, and it's not looking good for Falcons. There's
Shaiko half. Losing Legion, not the end of the world, but still a gun that you are down. And in a half where you've struggled to find kills, let alone rounds, it's not feeling good if you're this Falcon side. Half the round now elapsed and down. A couple of C4s they can play behind, assuming of course they need them or even have the chance to use them. Now could just steamroll their way through. First phone call coming out from the Dokkaebi. Now to start the march on Fort, at least for a couple. Grimby's over the top, and one thing Loud have been really good at this half, Tim, is overwhelming with utility. I've really enjoyed seeing their use of the Sens alongside the Capitao, alongside the Grimby's here. They're really good at this stuff.
Bride manages to pick up Perez with a headshot. That's going to give Falcons at least something to work with inside of this round. 4 versus 4 as it stands at the minute, still with users in position inside a drum as well. We'll see how aware of this Loud are when they come to move in, but he could absolutely decimate them if they just come through that wall. They're going to get hit hard. Users is waiting for that, but it's going to be Solotov underneath to pick up live. 4 versus 3. Falcons could be holding on for another round. STK is going to get caught up in that FNAT mine as well. And right now, Falcons utility and gunpower is all working for them.
Liquor stability coming on through, but another one goes against them. Bride also low on HP. It is not looking good for Falcons here, Tim. 30 seconds on the clock. It does mean that it becomes the 6th man for the defenders here. It starts forcing the attackers into forced errors. They've got no choice but to take a risk. I know earlier on we had Solotov holding this angle that we've now got Bassetto approaching. He's still there. There's 2 players nearby, but look at the drop coming on through. Solotov gets his man, and they get a down at the same time. That is just what you need. Daffodil not going to have enough time here to pull this one back. Not got the diffuser in hand. 2 players off towards his left and right. Might get one for a bit of fun, but this round is done. A 3K for himself, but Falcons, they hold on.
There was a little bit of me nervous there.
If it swung, I'd have been like, please don't.
Shaiko,
please.
You really don't need to go for this.
Ugh.
But I think the conversation had been had that the other player was Solotov was nice and safely tucked away behind the shelves, so Shaiko had the freedom to be able to go for that challenge, but still a little bit of a hair-raising moment for Falcons fans, I'm sure. So they get one more. Still 2 rounds needed for Falcons. As I said, is the capability there? Of course it is. We know that. But the way that they've been playing so far today is going to need to improve if they want to get 3 rounds back-to-back. It's not something that they've been able to do as of yet. We're going to see them this time moving to T and Karaoke. Loud have done very well so far at attacking this site, getting themselves into that top floor, getting control of Office Exhibition, moving across, just causing problems. Every time Falcons have fallen back to site, they've fallen back to site with 2 or 3 players left. They've lost a couple on that other side, and that's something they need to avoid this time. We also saw Loud doing a very good job of attacking via Black Stairs, clearing Bride out, clearing Leakafak out, getting in and putting that diffuser down. They've done both very, very well. So if you're on the side of Falcons, it's difficult because what do? Should we set up for the cross clearance and try and hold that? Should we set up for a Black Stairs hold? They've had success when they've gone up against both.
Disrespect being shown to the Valkyrie from live here, jumping across onto that IQ. Stepping away from his previous pick, which I believe was going to be the striker. Of course, bringing along 2 sets of secondary gadgets or utility there would have brought a lot more to the team. I've remarked a few times on their effective use of utility. Very good at overwhelming the other side with the Dokkaebi calls, the Grimby's coming on through, Capitao firebolts, you name it. It's very, very good at overwhelming Falcons and picking up kills off the back of that distraction. Here a little bit less effective, I guess, because they've turned instead towards Bassetto on the Monty. That shield being the spearhead of this attack and looking to help them take ground. The Falcons, like you remarked, I think I'd rather see them play a little bit tighter here rather than risking getting isolated. There's 2 players out here. dipping back together around Shrine side, wasting a bit of time.
Yeah, that's going to be the key. Absolutely, they should have a presence out there and be trying to slow down this attack, but they've got to make sure that they fall back in a more structured way, that they keep themselves alive, that they don't overhold this, because they don't want to be losing the bodies. The flashbang comes in. Good support from underneath as STK takes some damage, but there's the first death. And now's the big question for Falcons. How do they deal with this? How do they fall back, and how do they keep that manpower alive?
SDK knew that he was dead to right, so had very little business getting away, and it was more of a confirmation from Falcons that they managed to push him. We've gone chasing a little bit too much for a kill and paid the price as a result. 4 versus 4, those shields still alive, and they've got control of this east side of the map, what they were looking for earlier on, Tim. Going 1 for 1 there and losing the Dockerby is not the end of the world, but you do miss out on that second phone call.
4 versus 4 then, and time works in the favour of Falcons at the minute. Just going to be trying to hold on to Drum, prevent this push coming across from Perez. And Loud, for the first time, I feel like they not stalled out, but everything has slowed down a little bit for them. They've got Office and Exhibition, but they're moving very cautiously across. I think they're very worried about Leakifak underneath because they know what could be coming. And that's beautiful placement of that F-Nat. It's just preventing them seeing whether that Nitro is coming up from underneath or not. Leakifak tries to use it in a different position. I'm not sure he's going to get any joy. No, he won't. Just goes a little bit early. Live manages to escape any damage there, but 4 versus 3, and Falcons are holding on well.
Well, it's also in a good spot here. This could be a nice little challenge onto the player sat inside a goal. It's going to force, I believe, it's Breeday away from that spot. Can't afford to stay for much longer. Indeed, a smoke comes out and forces the Monty back, but the pressure is building on this site. As soon as the second player gets rounding in towards Breeder, this could start going from bad to worse. Shoko goes down, Users hits the deck. 2 players, Tim, suddenly are on their backside. Leakifak and Breeder to do it all here. And there's a plant going down. There's great cover coming through on the breach. Leakifak to do it all, but I don't think he's going to have the chance. Gets it for the spray, over to the shotgun, but it was only a delay in the victory that Loud were after. They bring down Falcons and win their first game here at Reload.
I'll repeat what I said earlier in that game, and that was that Loud always found the answer, and they did it again. They were in a difficult situation, 3 versus 4, Leakifak underneath. Falcons seem to have everything they need to win that round. But again, Loud come in and they find a way. They find the answer and they cut them down, create space. Yes, they didn't get the plant down, but it didn't matter because it put Leakifak in a perilous position whereby it was then easily mopped up. Really well played from Loud. Falcons, they're going to have to improve as this goes on. It's certainly not the end of the world. Like we said, it's day 1. It's 1 bullet that they've lost. They'll move on. It's not a problem, but a tough start for them.
Question marks about the defense more than anything. I thought their attack was good. Defense is where they really crumbled there. And I don't want to take it away from the other side here. Loud's attacks were really, really good. As said, I thought their use of utility was fantastic. The team play was there. Where we've kind of seen them struggle a bit historically is trying to do too much as a team. They attack from 5 different points of the map, and before you know it, you're losing 1 or 2 players. Parts of the map go dark and it crumbles, but this was a real team effort today. Really impressed with what they've shown. Plenty of aggression, focused aggression at that, and I really want to see what they can do tomorrow.
I don't think teams are going to be too quick to pick Loud to play up against, to be honest, because how do you play against that? No matter what you set up with, they just out-aggress you, out-gunfight you. Very difficult to play against. Very, very difficult.
What I'm kicking myself a bit is I was looking at the fantasy team yesterday. Of course, we've got to talk about this. And live as a player, I was like, I've always liked him. Do I pick him? Do I not?
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda, because we went for BDS players, Falcons players instead. And I'm not saying we're fully regretting it. They had some good moments in the game, but there's definitely more to come from them. There is definitely.
Well, you would hope so if you're a Falcons fan. We know they've got more in the tank, and I think maybe just a little bit of shock and awe coming in from Loud.
Certainly, and here's the stats in case you want to see how this one has played down. Pretty balanced across the 2 teams, to be fair as well, Tim. Like, no one standing out as the out-and-out best performer. Live player I was talking about there a second ago, having a pretty good one. 3 entries to himself as well. Certainly nothing to scoff at.
No, not at all.
Not against Falcons.
No, it's never going to be easy when you're going up against a front line. You know, I was going to say 3 of them, but really it's 4. You could meet up with users Solotov, Leakifak, Shako, anybody out there looking for those entries. And so, yeah, coming out on top of that is particularly impressive as well.
Slow start. You'll give them day 1. Tomorrow, though, you've got to see a different team. It's important, I think, if you're going to have your bad performances, get them out the way now as well, because while the bullets can only be set at 2 for a game, when it starts becoming far more than that, and teams can really start dragging loads out of you, that's when you start feeling a little bit worried.
Yeah, the pressure definitely starts mounting from day 3, because that's the point where teams could, in theory, start going home. So, you know, the first couple of days, they've got that grace to find their feet and get themselves into it. It's one thing I like about the format, you know, get yourself in there, and then it starts really ramping up towards the end of the week.
And the cards start to come into play as well. But we'll go to a break. When we come back, Game 4 awaits. See you in a little bit.